Up to the Sky, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Zay, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or
SCU! This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Words.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, May the 10th, 2020. I want to thank everybody for watching, listening, and subscribing on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any place you get your podcasts from. Thanks to everybody for following on social media as well, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. You can find the show at Catch, Hook, Shoot. Head over to patreon.com/catchhookshoot for bonus content and prowrestlingtees.com/catchhookshoot for all your t-shirt needs. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. So you might notice if you're watching the video a little bit different setup here, or might even hear a little bit difference in the audio if you're just listening on the podcast. Got a brand new studio setup here, so still probably going to need a little bit of tweaking, so if the video angle changes or the audio sounds a little bit different, it's just me making adjustments to my new setup here. But in the end, I'm hoping that the quality of the audio and video is going to be even better, so just to make the podcast that much better. So let's dive right into everything that's going on in the world of pro wrestling this week, and we're going to kick it all off like we always do with the match of the week. Alright, so this week's match of the week comes from AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. AEW did start up again with live shows again this week from Daly's Place in Jacksonville. And the match that I'm picking this week for match of the week is Cody Rhodes versus Joey Janela. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there rolling their eyes that I would pick a Joey Janela match as match of the week. But, like it or not, and despite Janela's reputation of being like a hardcore guy and things like that, the guy can wrestle. And him and Cody Rhodes put on a hell of a match this week. And I always say, if you only check out one match this week, make it this one. This is no different. Cody Rhodes versus Joey Janela from AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday. There was no really backstory or storyline going into it. It was just a match, and it was a great match at that. So, again, if you only check out one match this week, make it Cody Rhodes versus Joey Janela from AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. So, moving into the next segment of the show, which is the top 3 highlights of the week from my point of view, and I am talking about the 3 count. So first up on the 3 count this week, I've been talking about for the past few weeks, is Dark Side of the Ring. This week it was about the Herb Abrams iteration of the UWF, the Universal Wrestling Federation. Now, I really wasn't that familiar with this particular promotion. I mean, it happened in the early 90s, and the UWF that I knew, that I grew up with, was the Cowboy Bill Watts promotion of the UWF, which spawned out of Mid-South and was eventually bought out by Crockett Promotions, which eventually turned into WCW. So that's the UWF that I had always been familiar with. This particular one was based on the West Coast. Herb Abrams, by all accounts, was just a mega wrestling fan, and just decided to create his own promotion. Got quite a few big names to be involved with it. Guys like Andre the Giant at one point made an appearance for them. Cactus Jack, Mick Foley was a part of it. B. Brian Blair. Just really, it had the potential to be a great promotion, but Herb Abrams just wasn't. By all accounts, wasn't a wrestling guy, and just wasn't managed well, didn't manage their money well, and from the Dark Side of the Ring episode, learned a lot that I did not know about this particular promotion from back in the day. So another great show by Dark Side of the Ring. If you have not checked this show out yet, definitely go back. They post their shows on YouTube. Go back, check it out. Check out season 1. Check out season 2 so far. Next week's episode is going to be on the Road Warriors. I can't wait to see that one. And their season finale is going to be about Owen Hart. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Moving on, number 2 on the 3 count was a moment from AEW Dynamite that was all over the internet this week after the show aired, and that was Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy running over Sammy Guevara with a golf cart. It was just, the match itself, the street fight Falls Count Anywhere match between Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. It was a great match anyway, but this kind of high spot in the match it was highly entertaining. It was hilarious, and some of the memes and gifs that have come out with it online on Twitter and everything are even more hilarious. So yeah, definitely something to check out there. Very entertaining moment during AEW Dynamite. Number 3 up on the 3 count, also from AEW Dynamite, was Brandy Rhodes' promo on Jake the Snake Roberts, as well as Jake's response, so to speak. Brandy Rhodes catches a lot of heat about not being a wrestler, not being able to wrestle, things like that, which is ridiculous. I've seen her in the ring. She's good. Like it or not, people want to say, oh, she's Cody's wife and that's the only reason, blah, 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 blah. No, she's a competent wrestler in the ring, like it or not. And, the woman can cut a damn good promo. She knows her... She's kind of found her groove when it comes to promos as far as the type of promos that she cuts, because if you go back and look at the one that she cut on Shawn Spears a few months ago before the match between Cody and Spears, Brandy can cut a damn good promo. And as far as Jake the Snake's response, there was a match on Dynamite between Lance Archer and QT Marshall. Of course, Brandy was at ringside because she manages QT and Dustin. And Jake the Snake was at ringside. And at one point in the match, Britt Baker basically knocked out Brandy, DDT'd her on the floor outside the ring, threw her into the ring, and Jake the Snake went really, really old school, came out with the snake, draped it all over Brandy, and it was just it was a cool spot. And I definitely say for me, it was definitely a highlight of the week because we saw kind of that old school Jake the Snake Roberts coming out, and like I said, Brandy Rhodes cutting a hell of a promo prior to that. So that is number 3 on 3 count for this week. So getting into some WWE news and goings on for this week. On Raw, we saw the return of AJ Styles, and as I pretty much predicted last week, he was the one to win the Last Chance Gauntlet match to qualify for the Money in the Bank. That was really the only significant thing from Raw. Then moving on to NXT, we saw the debut of Killer Kross and Scarlett. Kross pretty much just had a squash match just to kind of introduce him to the NXT audience. Did not disappoint. Great entrance, great ring presence. Scarlett doing her thing as his manager. And, it was a great debut for Karrion Kross, as he's now known. And a lot of people have a problem with, his name's Killer Kross and this and that. Well, WWE is not going to let somebody use the name Killer. And don't even start talking about Killer Kelly in NXT UK, because that's NXT UK. Okay, it's totally different animal, different audience, just a completely different situation. If she at some point moves to NXT in the US or to Raw or SmackDown especially, I guarantee you will see a name change for her. So, Karrion Kross, great debut on NXT. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with him going forward. We also saw a return of Rhea Ripley. Came out, attacked Charlotte. After Charlotte's match with Io Shirai, Charlotte ended up retaining the championship because she got herself disqualified. So Rhea came out to kind of stop Charlotte from the beatdown she was putting on Io. And Io Shirai didn't appreciate that too much because the two of them ended up fighting backstage afterwards. So it could end up seeing a triple threat match with the three of them at some point in the future. Wouldn't surprise me for the NXT Women's title. And also found out this coming week on NXT, we're going to see Finn Balor taking on Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes was victorious in his match, got on the microphone and started talking about Finn Balor a little bit. Of course, Balor came out. Two of them got into a little bit of a scuffle, so we're going to see that match coming up this next week. Some updated standings for the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. Kushida moved up to 2-0 in the A block, so he's currently in the lead. Most likely will be the winner of that block. Drake Maverick is sitting at 1-1. Tony Nese is at 0-2, so he's pretty much eliminated, and Jake Atlas is at 1-1. In the B block, got Swerve Scott at 1-1, Phantasma at 1-1, Tozawa now at 2-0. So as of right now, Tozawa and Kushida are the two front runners in the tournament, and then you have Jack Gallagher also at 0-2. So Gallagher and Nese are pretty much, I would say, eliminated. So right now it's looking like Tozawa and Kushida are going to be the front runners, but there's still some matches left, so we'll have to see how that comes out. I think I don't know. I still think we're probably going to see Drake Maverick moving on to the final match because he's got kind of got that. I don't want to say sympathy, but he's definitely a very sympathetic babyface at this point, just because of the situation with him being released. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Drake Maverick end up being the winner of the A block. And then some miscellaneous WWE news. Found out that Jimmy Uso is going to be out for up to 6 months with a knee injury. What else we got going on here? Oh, WrestleMania 3 is going to be premiering on FS1 this Tuesday. Arguably the biggest WrestleMania of all time, at least up to that point. It was the biggest wrestling event of all time. With the Hogan and Andre match, obviously, Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. So, yeah, one of my favorite WrestleManias, a lot of people's favorite WrestleMania 3 this Tuesday on FS1. And then also, after Money in the Bank on Sunday night, we're going to see the premiere of the Undertaker documentary series Last Ride, which I am really, really excited to see. It's really one of the first times we get a behind-the-scenes look at The Undertaker. We've seen interviews with him where he's out of character and things like that, like with Stone Cold and things like that. We've seen him participate in other WWE documentaries, talking about other superstars and things like that, but we've never seen something like this about The Undertaker. So I am really excited to check this out. Let's see, before we get into my previews and predictions for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, let's see what else is going on in the world of pro wrestling here. AEW, like I said, they are back live at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. We saw the Dark Order attack Jon Moxley and SCU after Moxley's match with Frankie Kazarian, and looks like the Exalted One, Brody Lee, is going to be the next challenger for the AEW World Championship coming up at Double or Nothing. So I'm interested to see how that rivalry is going to be built over the next couple of weeks going into the pay-per-view. Now, obviously, Brody Lee and Jon Moxley, no strangers to each other. They had multiple matches when both of them were in WWE as part of the Shield and the Wyatt family. So I have no doubt it's going to be a good match, but I think it's going to be vastly different from anything that we've seen between the two of them before, because it's not in WWE. So it's the same two men, but it's not the same characters, not the same situations. So I'm interested to see how the build up to this match is going to go. And the match itself, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic. We saw a backstage segment during AEW with Taz talking to Darby Allin, and this was after Darby Allin's loss in the TNT title tournament to Cody Rhodes, and Taz offering to help Darby Allin, pointing out that he made some mistakes in his match and things like that, and Taz offering his help, which I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Is Taz going to end up being a manager or a trainer or a coach or whatever you want to call it for Darby Allin, like on screen, or how is that going to work out? I'm definitely interested to see Taz get involved on screen, as more than just an announcer, but get involved in like a storyline or something like that, possibly as a manager. So we'll have to see where that one's going to go. And I talked about the match earlier with Jericho and Sammy Guevara taking on Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. That was Matt Hardy's in-ring debut for AEW. Didn't disappoint. Obviously, I mean, it's Matt Hardy. You know, you're not gonna get a bad match out of Matt Hardy, and this was no exception. It was a great, street fight, Falls Count Anywhere tag team match with Hardy and Omega against Jericho and Guevara, and yeah, I mean, just all around a great episode of AEW Dynamite this past week. On Impact, we saw another debut for the Knockouts division in Kimber Lee. Now, last week we saw Nevaeh make her debut as more or less of a spectator during Rebellion, during Havoc's match against Rosemary, and this time it was Kimber Lee debuting on Locker Room Talk, where Havoc was the guest of Madison Rayne. So Impact, still beefing up their Knockouts division. I mean, Impact for a long time has had one of the better women's divisions in pro wrestling, and that doesn't look to be changing anytime soon. And also announced on Impact next week, they're starting a tournament for a new number one contender for the Impact World Championship. Now, as I talked about last week, Moose kind of declared himself the TNA World Champion on the Rebellion event because Tessa Blanchard wasn't there to defend the Impact World title. Moose was supposed to be part of this number one contenders tournament, but he basically pulled himself out of it, saying, well, I'm already the world champion, so I don't need this tournament. So it's definitely going to be building to the Impact Championship versus the TNA Championship. So whether that's going to be Tessa and Moose, whether that's going to be whoever wins this number one contenders tournament, if they defeat Tessa and that person going against Moose or whatever it might be. But definitely an interesting direction that Impact is going. So it's going to keep me tuning in. Tuning in every week, so I'm definitely looking forward to see where this is going. So now let's get into my preview and predictions for WWE Money in the Bank coming up tonight on the WWE Network, and obviously this is going to be taking place from the Performance Center yet again, but the Money in the Bank ladder matches are taking place from the WWE corporate headquarters in Stamford, and in case anybody's missed it, basically the men's and women's Money in the Bank matches are going to be taking place at the same time. And the object is the matches start in the lobby of the building. There's 6 participants in each match, and they have to fight their way to the roof of the building, which is where the briefcases and the ladders are going to be. So this is going to be another one of those cinematic type matches. From what I've read, both matches have already been filmed. And they're supposedly going to be taking place simultaneously, so I'm curious to see how all these moving parts are going to come together. But I would think it's going to be one of those things. The matches are going to start, and this is just my guess. I have read this online, but it's not, wasn't from WWE. It was from one of the wrestling sites, and so it's obviously not confirmed that this is how it's going to go. But my thought is the matches are probably going to start right at the beginning of the pay-per-view, and you're going to see kind of throughout the show, in between the other matches going on, you're going to see the cameras cut back to Stamford so we're going to see this match happening throughout the entire pay-per-view, but it could that could be could be wrong. It could be the Money in the Bank could be the main event of the show. If that's the case, I mean, I would think it would take a good at least an hour, if not more, if they're supposed to be climbing up a 10-story building to get to these briefcases. So I'm very curious to see how exactly they're going to pull this one off, but I'm hoping it could go one of two ways. It could be great or it could be terrible. I mean, that's pretty much the way it goes with the cinematic type matches, so I'm hoping this is a case where it's going to be great. But before I get into the Money in the Bank matches themselves, let's see what else is going on in the pay-per-view. We've got for the Raw Tag Team Championships, the Street Profits defending against the Viking Raiders. They've been building this one up a little bit on Raw the last couple of weeks. The Viking Raiders basically saying that Street Profits have never beaten them. When the Street Profits won the NXT tag titles, it was after the Viking Raiders had vacated them, and when they won the Raw tag team titles, it was after the Viking Raiders again had vacated titles because of injury and whatever, so they've kind of been building it up that way. And but I'm picking the Street Profits to retain in this one. I think this is probably, that's probably why they've been hitting on that point so much, of the Street Profits not defeating the Viking Raiders. So I think this is going to be their first victory over the Viking Raiders. I'm looking at the Street Profits to retain. Then we've got a fatal four-way match for the SmackDown tag team titles. We've got the New Day defending against the Miz and Morrison, Forgotten Sons, and Lucha House Party. Seems a little bit excessive. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm not too sure about this one, but I am picking the New Day to retain. I like how the Forgotten Sons have been presented, though, on SmackDown since they debuted a few weeks ago. So if the titles are going to change hands, I would pick the Forgotten Sons, but I think that the New Day is probably going to retain in this one. Then for the SmackDown Women's Championship, we've got Bayley defending against Tamina. I think it's really cool that Tamina is getting a title shot so quickly after coming back from injury. I don't think they're going to put the title on her right now, though. I think Bayley is going to retain, probably with some help from Sasha Banks. They've been kind of hinting at Bayley and Sasha splitting up, because that's something supposedly that's going to happen at SummerSlam, is Bayley versus Sasha. So they're doing kind of the slow build for that one. So if that's the case, the title, I think, needs to stay on Bayley, so that that is a title match whenever it comes up with Bayley and Sasha. So I'm looking for Bayley to retain in this one. Then moving on to the Universal Championship, Braun Strowman defending against Bray Wyatt. They've been doing a great job of building this one, going back again to the Wyatt family and the connection between Bray and Braun. With this one, as much as I hate to say it, I hate to see Braun be a transitional champion like this, but I think you have to put the title back on Bray Wyatt at this point, unless the match ends in some kind of disqualification or no contest or whatever, to keep the title on Strowman. But my thinking is, the Fiend cannot lose this match. It would not do anything for that character. So I'm looking at Bray Wyatt to regain the Universal Championship. Then for the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre defending against Seth Rollins. Again, another rivalry that's been built up pretty good over the last several weeks on Raw. I'm picking Drew McIntyre to retain. I don't see him having a brief title reign like that. I think he's going to have the title for a good little while. So I'm picking Drew McIntyre to retain. Now, whether that's a straight up clean victory over Rollins, or whether Rollins gets disqualified because of Buddy Murphy interfering or something along those lines, I don't know. But I do think Drew McIntyre is going to retain the championship. So moving on to the Money in the Bank ladder matches. On the men's side, we've got Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, King Corbin, Otis, and AJ Styles. Kind of an interesting field, and Otis is kind of the wild card in this one. I mean, Otis typically a tag team guy with Tucker, part of Heavy Machinery. So I'm not. I don't know. I think if WWE wanted to do something really, really different with Money in the Bank, you let Otis win, and instead of challenging for the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, he uses it to challenge for the tag team titles with Tucker. That would be an interesting kind of curveball for WWE to throw. I don't think they're going to do that. I just don't see them going that direction with it. Like I said, I think it'd be interesting, but I don't think they're going to do it. With this one, I would have to pick from the field that they have out there. I would have to pick AJ Styles is going to be my pick for the men's Money in the Bank. Throwing him back into that main event title picture, on kind of putting him in the mix with Rollins and McIntyre, and depending. Well, we're not going to see a cash in the same night. I mean, you could, because Money in the Bank matches have already been taped, but I'm sure WWE wants to give the impression that it's going on live, so I don't think we're going to see a cash in on the same night, because how's the winner going to get from Stamford down to Orlando in a matter of an hour or so? So I don't think that's going to happen. But Yeah, I'm picking AJ Styles on the men's side just to kind of beef up the main event picture on Raw. On the women's side, you've got Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Carmella. I think you kind of have to go with Shayna Baszler on this one, just based on how dominant they're making her look. So she's the one that I would kind of compare and say she's kind of the female Brock Lesnar. So I'm fairly confident in picking Shayna Baszler on the women's side for the women's Money in the Bank. Now there is the additional wild card of the so-called SmackDown hacker, this person that we've seen kind of interrupting the broadcasts and stuff like that with all the computer screens. And there's been a lot of guesses as to who it is. There's a big group of fans out there who think it's going to be CM Punk, which I'll admit that it'd be really cool if it was. I don't think that's the case, though. I do think it's going to be Mustafa Ali. That's my pick for who the hacker is, and so there's a very good chance we're going to find out who this person is coming up at the pay-per-view, because just some of the hints that have been dropped, and when you see him logging into his phone, he's putting in the date of 5/10/20 and things like that. So I'm fairly certain we're going to find out who this hacker is come Money in the Bank, and my money, like I said, is on Mustafa Ali as the hacker. There's also been speculation that it could be two people, and if that's the case, people have been saying Mustafa Ali and Shorty G, which I wouldn't have a problem with that if it's if it's two people. It would kind of be just another cut and paste tag team by WWE, though, which of course Shorty G has been part of too many of those in my opinion. But yeah, I personally I'd prefer it to be Mustafa Ali and see where they go with it. So yeah, those are my picks for Money in the Bank. On the women's Money in the Bank, Shayna Baszler; the men's Money in the Bank, AJ Styles; Universal Championship, Bray Wyatt; SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley; WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre; the New Day to retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles, and the Street Profits to retain the Raw Tag Team titles. So let's move into our next segment of the show here. I am going to throw it over to Charlie G, and he is here with this week's Indie Cut.
Thank you, Tom, and hey there, wrestling fans. I am Charlie G with your Indie Cut. There was very little indie wrestling action again this week to recap, so let's get to it with Week 3 of AAA Live Empty Arena Lucha Fighter Tournament, which means this week is the finale. Week 3 matchups are Big Mommy versus La Hydra, Lady Maravilla versus Lady Shani, Tejano versus Psycho Clown, Chessman versus Pagano, Hijo del Vikingo versus Pentagon, and LA Park versus Dr. Wagner Jr. The show started off with showing the brackets of the tournament, but for some reason they didn't follow suit as the show progressed. They changed opponents on each side, so I'm not sure what was going on. The show also started off with both announcers backstage instead of at the tables at ringside. So either something happened or they're taking more precaution as the weeks go on. So let's start with La Hydra defeating Big Mommy. In a decent back and forth match at the end, Mommy climbed the corner to finish Hydra, only for her to spring up to deliver a powerbomb off the turnbuckle for the win. After the match, La Hydra teased Big Mommy with a couple of kicks, and then Lady Shani came out for the save. So then it was Lady Shani defeating Lady Maravilla. Now these two aren't new to each other, so they both try to go for a quick win early on. It kind of slowed down the flow of the match. However, Shani finished the match with a sit-down flapjack, then a standing surfboard variation submission for the win. After the match, Maravilla disputed the loss and tried to rip off Shani's mask. So Big Mommy ran down for the save. Mommy flattened Maravilla with a running splash. With this win, it seems right because it sets up Big Mommy and Lady Maravilla for a bigger show. Then Hydra can feud with Shani for some time. Next up was Psycho Clown against Tejano. Psycho was on a roll with a beautiful place suicide dive, then a tope con heel. Tejano turned things around, catching Psycho's arm from the outside. Sticking with it with intensity, as the trainers even came out to check on Psycho Clown. This match kept going in and out of the ring, which meant cookie sheets, which came into play eventually. Though it looked like Tejano was in control, Psycho pulled out a couple of roll-ups, then a Mexican Destroyer for the win. After the match, Tejano tried to whip Psycho Clown with his bull rope, but Psycho escaped to the back. Next up was Chessman defeating Pagano in a hard-hitting match from both men. Chessman took the early momentum with cookie sheet strikes to Pagano, and of course Pagano returned the favor soon then after. Pagano had the move of the match with a step-up cannonball down to the floor. In the end, Pagano charged to hit Chessman with the cookie sheet. Chessman dodged, and the referee cowered behind him. The ref was scared of being hit. Pagano stopped short, so Chessman kicked him with a low blow for the win. Next up was Pentagon against Heel del Vikingo. Vikingo made an uncharacteristic attack to suicide dive Pentagon prior to the opening bell. Vikingo kept up the pressure with a twisting plancha, then a springboard moonsault, all beautifully done. Vikingo's plan was to score a quick win. He climbed the corner and hit a shooting star press, but Pentagon kicked out. Pentagon then slowed down the pace after landing a low drop kick to the Vikingo while he was trying to do a flip move off the ropes, taking the fight to the floor. And yes, Penta even used the cookie sheets. Vikingo came back with two head scissors takedowns, a springboard 450 to the floor, which really kind of failed. Back in the ring, Vikingo kept up the speed moves, then a springboard flipping splash that led to a slap fight on the apron. Pentagon got the upper hand with a Mexican Destroyer on the apron itself, which is hard enough as it is. The final flurry of action began with a reverse Hurricanrana from Vikingo. He went high risk for an inverted 450 splash. Pentagon got his knees up below Vikingo's legs, which had hurt immensely. Penta went for the snap armbreaker into a package piledriver for the hard-fought win and a great match of the night. And then in the main event, it was L.A. Park defeating Dr. Wagner Jr. For some reason, Dr. Wagner Jr. was allowed to wrestle with his mask on for most of the match. I found that very weird. It wasn't protective. This is his gimmick. In a rough grappling style match with no real one-sided advantage, Wagner got a slight upper hand, landing a rope-hung DDT, 2 dragon screws to the knee, and his finisher slam. Park kicked out of the cover. Wagner became frustrated with the referee threatening him in the corner. As Wagner turned around, the ref pushed Wagner into the spear from Park, which was the winning move. So even the referee got involved in this match, so I like to see how that plays out coming up. The finale has been whittled down to Chessman, Psycho Clown, Pentagon, and L.A. Park for the men. For the women, the final is Lady Shani versus La Hydra. And the minis, who haven't wrestled since night 1, is Dinastia versus the Laredo Boy. My guess for the men will be Chessman versus Pentagon, and Psycho Clown versus L.A. Park, with Pentagon versus L.A. Park in the finale, and Penta winning, but we shall see. Now for other wrestling action. Ice Ribbon put on shows on the 2nd, 4th, and 9th. 01 put on an empty arena show on the 3rd, as well as Pro Wrestling Noah Stay Together Showdown featuring Segura Goon versus Kongol, also in an empty arena. On the 5th of May, All Japan Wrestling did a broadcast with Tajiri in a tag team match, so Tajiri is still even wrestling. And also on the 5th, Limitless at the Pandemic at the Dojo, now on independentwrestling.tv. So if you want to check that out, you can. Nick Stapp defeated Alec Price. Tom Billington defeated Pimp Daddy Apple Cinnamon and Tim Kilgore. Eric Johnson defeated Zach Burton. And in Limitless Wrestling World Title match, champion Anthony Green defeated Rip Bison. Also, check out Ethan Page's YouTube page for some cool content. He has a thing with his matches with Kylie Ray at Freelance Wrestling. And Beyond Wrestling put out their pilot taping from May 8th through the 10th, 2009, which means this weekend is their 11th anniversary. Congrats to them. Too bad there's no real wrestling action to go around. Now, for the Throwback Machine and Lucha Underground episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3, Cross the Border, from November 12th, 2014. The show starts with Conan talking about bringing in the best luchadors from Mexico for the temple. And they are Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and Drago. So recap, Phoenix wrestles in AAA and AEW alongside Pentagon. That was even back during the taping. And Drago still wrestles in AAA even from 2014. Now Dario Cueto's saying he will put all three in a match against each other to show off their skills. Striker and Vampiro welcome you to the temple. And I noticed a wrestling commentator and podcaster, Kevin Gill, in the background. It seems like he is in a couple of the early tapings of the show. Dario comes out to the people to give the people what they want, and that is more lucha. And that is in the form of El Mariachi Loco, a trumpeter from a local Mexican restaurant down the street. Funny little bit, and I actually got a chuckle out of it. I completely forgot about that during the, back then. So the first match is Masquerita Sagrada. From info I found, he debuted in September 22nd, 1989, and still wrestles, last seen earlier this year in AAA. There is no confirmation it is the same person under the mask, since he has had other people under it. And he defeated El Mariachi Loco in an entertaining match with the size differences. Of course, Sagrada is a mini, so it's kind of cool how he just wrestles. It's really cool. Sagrada won with a modified choke to a small package for the win. After the match, Chavo Guerrero came out to beat down Sagrada, adding to this list of disrespect. After the break, Vampiro sits down with Chavo to ask who is Chavo Guerrero today, and about the family shadows he lives in, plus the Blue Demon family versus the Guerrero's lineage. Cool little segment if not knowing about their past, so it was kind of nice. Then there was a meeting of Conan and Chavo in the hallway, telling him to hide out for a while for the disrespect he has shown to others, only to get spooked by Mil Muertes and Katrina, who said one day he will belong to Mil Muertes, and gave him the look of death. Kind of interesting back in those days, I gotta say. Next up was Mil Muertes with Katrina defeating Ricky Mandel. They showed a hype video giving the story behind Mil Muertes and how he became who he is today. At the time of the filming, he was part of AAA under the name El Macias, and he now wrestles with CMLL under the name Gilbert El Bruica. I'm sorry about that. And as for Katrina, She was with FCW NXT under the name Candy Girl and Maxine. She doesn't seem to be in the business anymore. This is pretty much a squash match with Mill hitting a flatliner to win, after which Katrina licked Mandel and kissed Mole straight on the lips. There was a cut to the hallway, and Mr. Cisco and Cortez Castro manning Dario Cueto's door as Johnny Mundo wants a meeting. The two resist and try to beat him down, to no avail. Once Mundo is inside, a scared Cueto cooperates and gives him a match with Big Rick for next week. Big Rick is actually Ezekiel Jackson of WWE, so that's how him and Mundo know each other. After yet another break, we see Cueto paying Big Rick to send Mundo to the hospital at any cost. Then another high video is shown of Prince Puma. Finally, to the main event, it was Phoenix, Drago, and Pentagon Jr. At the time of the show, it was the first time I ever saw all three of these wrestlers meet, and it was a great match. All three showed off their skill with great back and forth action, corkscrews, hurricanranas, loud chops, and of course a 30-foot plancha from Phoenix onto Penta and Drago. Yeah, they used tempo very well back in the day. At the end, Penta hit a package power driver on Drago, sending him to Phoenix for a tombstone shoulder breaker. Phoenix then went for Penta, landing a poison rana for the win. After the match, we see Dario Cueto pacing in a dark room with a cell behind him, and a shadow comes about to a smiling Cueto. We should see what comes of that. But once again, it was a great match. This is a pretty good show, seeing a bunch of guys I have never seen before. Now, as for episode 4, The Thrill of the Hunt, November 19th, 2014, the show begins with a band performing in the temple. First match was Sexy Star defeating Ivelisse. As I mentioned last show, Ivelisse was part of Tough Enough in 2011, only to be eliminated due to leg injury, but was part of FCW NXT as Sofia Cortez for a couple years. After that, she went on the Indies and part of TNA. She still wrestles on the Indies, mostly part of Shine as their champion right now, even appearing in AEW Women's Casino Battle Royal at All Out 2019. I'd like to see her in AEW more if she could, but I think she's happy on the indie circuit. Sexy Star cut a promo in ring against Chavo, warning him for what he has done to Blue Demon, Masquerita, and herself, claiming she will end the Guerrero family dynasty. Ivelisse then comes out and talks smack to Star, so there's a bunch of promos in the beginning of the show. Ivelisse really had control much of the match, with some vicious mat wrestling. Ivelisse thought she had a win with a guillotine choke DDT, only for Star to gain advantage to a distracted Ivelisse complaining to the referee into a chicken wing roll-up for the win. And a pretty cool match between the two. After a break, Dario Cueto is seen talking to Drago in the locker room area, telling him he is the first prey of King Cuerno. At the time of the filming, he was part of AAA, known as El Hijo del Fantasma, also appearing in Impact with Drago for a few shows, and is now part of NXT, using his real name Jorge Bolli, and now El Hijo del Fantasma. They can't make up what they want, I'm sure. Second match was Phoenix defeating Pentagon Jr. Now, at the time, I did not know they were actually brothers, which adds to their fluidity in the ring, and it shows. It's very cool that they can be opponents and still put on great matches, and best friends putting on even better matches. In the ring, Pentagon has a mic and talks about how he gets no respect from anyone. even thanking Mr. Cueto for giving him the respect he deserves. The match starts off fast and furious with both men trying to get a quick win. They're both holding nothing back, going for high impact moves in and out of the ring. Phoenix pulled out the win with a top rope massive Spanish fly in an awesome match. A side note, Rick Knox is the referee, and yes, even back in 2014, he had left arm problems, which I think lingered all the way to this year in AEW. He always had some elbow pad, arm pad. Right now, on this, he had a broken left hand. So I feel sorry for Rick Knox. He never really got that fixed up until recently. After the match, a promo video is shown of King Cuerno, who, as you can hear and see, speaks perfect English. Not sure why WWE doesn't use that. So the match was Drago against King Cuerno. This was a simple lucha match between the two. Quick moves, few high spots, just good wrestling. Drago pulled off the win with a crazy twisting arm and leg roll-up. You got to watch it to believe. There's no way to describe it. I don't know how he did it. Even the commentators didn't know what to call it. But so it's just a cool roll-up for the win. After the match, we see Conan talk to Prince Puma in the gym, where he tells Puma to stay away from the main event because it is not his fight, no matter what is happening to Mundo. So the main event was Johnny Mundo against Big Rick. This is a solid match, a little on the WWE side, of course, with their tempo. During the match, however, they cut back to the gym where Cortez and Castro beat down Puma, leading them to ringside, grabbing Mundo's legs, and the ref calls for the bell and giving Mundo a DQ win. So Big Rick, Cortez, and Castro put the boots to Mundo and then put him through a table with a vicious side slam. So two real cool episodes from Lucha Underground. I hope you are liking my recap. That's a wrap for me. Till next time with a AAA finale recap and any indie wrestling news that comes along the way. Don't forget to check out those Twitch streams and YouTube channels for other wrestling content. Thank you for watching or listening. Hope you enjoyed the cut. Stay safe and take care, everyone. Back to you, Tim.
All right, that was Charlie G with your indie cut. Thank you once again, Charlie, for all your contributions to the show. Hope everybody's liking his reviews and recaps of Lucha Underground. I know I've said many times that was one of my favorite wrestling shows when it was on TV. If you've never seen it, download the Tubi app. It's TUBI. It's free. They have every episode on there, and it's a very, very entertaining show is the best way to put it. I mean, it's it's basically exactly what so many people describe wrestling as. It's a soap opera, but with some really great wrestling mixed in there. So I highly recommend check out Lucha Underground. Keep up with Charlie's recap of the shows. So moving into the next segment here, this this is a good one for this week, and this person definitely deserves to be called out. And of course, I am talking about the Troll of the Week. My troll of the week for this week is a guy named Tom Segura. Now, apparently this guy's a comedian. I've never heard of him. He's also got, a podcast or YouTube channel or whatever. And, he decided this week that he was going to start ripping on wrestling fans, him and his little co-host, whoever she is. I have no idea who either of these people are. But, he did the standard BS, it's so fake, and, typical crap of somebody who's completely ignorant of the wrestling business and has no clue what they're talking about. That irks me, not gonna lie, but it's so basic and common, and, people who say this kind of crap are a dime a dozen, so there's nothing special about anything that he said. Except for when he got to the point, he started using the R word, which is typically a slur against people with mental disabilities and things like that, started using that word to refer to wrestling fans, and you have to be, this type of person to enjoy wrestling or to watch wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan, you're an R word and this kind of thing like that. And, fine, you want to make fun of wrestling fans, whatever. There's no need to start throwing around stuff like that and then comparing wrestling to the Special Olympics and saying, oh, it's not a real competition. Well, the Special Olympics is a real competition, and so you're insulting two groups of people here, and one, wrestling fans, who we can take it, we're used to it, but then you're gonna start in on, kind of by proxy of ripping on people with mental disabilities or things along those lines, and why? Because you think it's funny? It's not. You're an idiot, and you honestly, and the people who support this guy or say, oh, it's not that big a deal. Well, yeah, it is. When you start, throwing around those kind of terms, talking about anybody, it's a big deal. It's akin to throwing around racial slurs or religious slurs, or it's not okay. The guy claims to be a comedian and things like that. Like I said, nothing he said was funny, first of all, but when you have to take it to a level like that, that's just it's low class and just low, just very lowbrow type comedy, quote unquote. And then, people who are defending this guy put out a different clip from the same podcast saying, oh, I love wrestling and this and that. Well, if they would have let the clip play an extra 15 seconds or so, you would have also heard him say, wrestling people aren't that bad. They're the third worst behind the flat earthers and the anti-vaxxers. We can wipe out, flat earthers and anti-vaxxers, and then we'll, wrestling fans will be the third ones to get wiped out. Basically saying all these people should be wiped off the face of the earth. So, not only are you throwing around slurs, trying to be funny, but you're advocating mass homicide for the most part. And whether the guy meant it or not, whether you were serious or not, whether he's just trying to get a laugh or not, is irrelevant. It's the it's like a white comedian using the N-word. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. It's also not acceptable to be using the R word as an insult to somebody, especially if you're insulting the person based on the type of entertainment they choose to watch. It's just stupid. It's the best word I can come up with for it. It's just stupid. So the guy got what I'm sure he was after. He got attention. He got responses from a few wrestlers like Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, Abyss, and of course, he came back with, little smart aleck comments, and I'm sure, sure nothing's going to happen to him. Nobody's actually going to whip his ass or anything. I personally think somebody needs to introduce him to Dr. D, but that's just my take on the thing, to have a face-to-face conversation with Dr. D and tell him your take on pro wrestling and see how well it goes for you. But, so yeah, Tom Segura, supposedly a comedian, supposedly he's got some Netflix specials, big whoop. Like I said, I never heard of the guy before yesterday, and hopefully I never hear of him again, because, yeah, he's just, if he's a comedian, he's very, very bad at it, sorry to tell you. So, moving on from that into a little bit more fun section of the show for me, where I get to kind of play armchair booker here, or do some armchair arm dragging, as Edge and Christian used to like to say on their podcast. This is one of my favorite parts of the show, and I am talking about the fantasy booker. Alright, so my fantasy booker for this week is creating another faction, kind of like what I did a few weeks ago when I made the quote-unquote AEW Horsemen. This particular faction would be in NXT or Raw or SmackDown, somewhere in WWE. I just think it'd be a really interesting and scary grouping of individuals here. And the first part would be Scarlett and Karrion Kross. Like I said earlier, we saw their debut on NXT. Kross just kind of tore through his opponent. They had a great entrance with the two of them, and just a really good look, really good character. Not a huge departure from the character that Kross has always had. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do with them. But for what I'm talking about here, the first person that I would pair up with them is Dexter Lumis. He's just got kind of that creepy, mysterious, just kind of monster movie type vibe about him. We've seen him in the last few weeks basically stalking the Undisputed Era. We saw him pop out from under the ring this week during Adam Cole's match with Velveteen Dream, which I should have mentioned while I was talking about NXT earlier. The match between Cole and Dream, that was actually the major contender for match of the week this week. So if you check out two matches this week, make the second one Dream versus Cole. I mean, they're two of the best in WWE in general, not just in NXT. So but anyway, getting back to the fantasy booking, Dexter Lumis, putting him with Karrion Kross and Scarlett, as I just think it fits. I think they complement each other really well as far as styles and kind of persona. And the next addition of that team, for me, would be Damian Priest. He's got kind of that loner type vibe, which this particular group, I'm not seeing a lot of tag team. I don't see tag team championships being won by this particular group I'm putting together. It's going to be a group of individuals, more or less, but just kind of associated, and I think Damian Priest, again, would fit in very well with kind of the overall vibe of the group, the style, the in-ring work, and things like that. And rounding out the group, the final member for me would be Aleister Black. Again, has that kind of dark, foreboding type of persona, and all four of these guys have that kind of vibe going for them. Their in-ring work, they're not known for having long matches. They go in there and they just beat the hell out of whoever they're in there with, and they get the job done very, very quickly. And so I think all four of these guys, their personalities, their style, their in-ring work kind of all complements each other very well. And I don't really see a clear-cut leader in this group, so to speak. Like I said, it's more of an association. So if anybody is the leader in this particular grouping, it would be Scarlett. So she would be kind of the mastermind behind the whole thing. And but yeah, Karrion Kross, Dexter Lumis, Damian Priest, and Aleister Black as a unit, as a grouping in NXT or Raw or SmackDown or wherever. I mean, that would be a very formidable group to have to deal with. So that is the fantasy booker for this week. Another faction that I would love to see put together at some point. So if Triple H or anybody in WWE is listening, hey, you can have that one for free just because I want to see it. So, but anyway, that's pretty much all I got for this week. I know I normally do the weekly hot take, but I really don't have one. Don't really have any unpopular opinions to espouse to everybody this week. I do want to make mention, though, of the Wrestling Behind Ringside Hall of Fame 2020 nominees are out. Of course, Wrestling Behind Ringside, run by my good buddy Cowboy Archie Coughlin. Definitely head over to WrestlingBehindRingside.com, check out all his content there. But the nominees have been released. I'm going to go through those real quick here. In the celebrity wing, nominees are Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Cyndi Lauper. On the referee wing, we've got Teddy Long and Joey Marella. The tag team wing, the Hollywood Blondes and the Brothers of Destruction. Well, I think we know who I'm pulling for in that category. The managers wing, Bobby Heenan and the Grand Wizard. In the stable wing, the Nation of Domination and the Dungeon of Doom. In the fans wing, we've got Clay Johnson and Bruce Woodson Jr. The announcers wing, we've got Lee Marshall and Vince McMahon. The promoters wing, nominees are Paulie Dangerously and Jim Crockett. In the women's wing, we've got Miss Jackie and Luna Vachon. The Legends wing, nominees are Justin Credible and Gentleman Chris Adams. I've definitely got a soft spot in my heart for Gentleman Chris Adams. He's the one who not invented the super kick, but kind of brought it into wrestling, so to speak. I mean, I'm sure a thrust kick has been used many times by many people over the years, but he's kind of the one that popularized it back in the world class days. On the podcasters wing, we've got Wrestling Sheet Radio and Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Thank you very much for the nomination. I am flattered and honored. And then the Superstar wing, we've got the Junkyard Dog and Jake the Snake Roberts. So some great nominees for the Wrestling Behind Ringside Hall of Fame. Keep an eye on their Twitter account, on their social media, so that you can find out when the actual inductees will be announced. They will also be presenting a Forever in Silver award. The winner of that will be announced live on, I believe it's on Facebook Live, but keep an eye on their social media for that as well. So head over to WrestlingBehindRingside.com, follow them on social media, find out more information about their Hall of Fame nominees and when the inductees will be announced and all that kind of good information. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I got to thank everybody once again for watching and listening and subscribing on YouTube, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any place you get your podcasts. Thank you also for following on social media. You can find the show at Catch Hook Shoot on all social media platforms. Make sure you head over to patreon.com/catchhookshoot for bonus content and prowrestlingtees.com/catchhookshoot for all your t-shirt needs. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. Thank you so much to everybody who has stuck with the show for now 101 episodes. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support, all the views, the downloads, and everything like that. It just really is overwhelming and humbling that people like listening to me spout off about pro wrestling every week. It's awesome. I have a great time doing the show, and I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I possibly can. So with that, I am going to say goodbye for now. Hope everybody has a great week. Enjoy Money in the Bank, and I will talk to you guys soon.